Good evening, everybody. My name is Philip Koski, and it is my distinct pleasure and honor to be tonight's Master of Ceremonies and to welcome the entire virtual universe of preservation enthusiasts to the 2021 Minneapolis Preservation Awards show, COVID edition. After reinventing the awards program 2 years ago and having ironed out all of the wrinkles, we were very excited after last year's program that the hard work was behind us. That this year we would basically put the whole operation on autopilot, kick back with a pitcher of Cap, Turner Teenies, and rake in the sweet, sweet accolades. And then, within days, fate declared it had a different idea. Fate had actually purchased a fleet of bulldozers and was already on the road to our palace of best-laid plans. Fate wasted no time reducing our shining, towering edifice of past success and organizational preparedness into a stinking heap of uncertainty. And so here we are, reinvented again. You are safe in your homes watching us. We are streaming live from a secret underground bunker on the upper reaches of Northeast Minneapolis. We are streaming live tonight following COVID protocols. Joining me in guiding you through this evening's program is my onstage emotional support manager, Rebecca Kaufman, whom I have never met before, in person, or really at all before about a week ago. Rebecca, tell me and the audience a little bit about yourself. How did you get roped into this?
It's a question I ask myself, Philip. I am a board member with Preserve Minneapolis, and I said yes at the wrong time at a meeting.
Right, so you were gullible.
Right.
Yeah, so was I.
It's a good honor. It's a great honor.
Well, we're in it together. In addition to giving me somebody to talk to on stage, Rebecca, she is going to be Rebecca is going to be monitoring our chat function. Think of her as our chat ambassador. We also have several other people here in the studio helping us out. Without the hard work, expertise, and the months of planning they contributed, this event would seriously not have happened. We want to thank our event planner, Erica Ledusa, with LDS Events, the crew of Curbside Productions, and Amber Allardyce with the staff of AIA Minneapolis. As has been the case for over 10 years, this program is the product of the dedicated volunteers and financial underwriting of these three partnering organizations: the Minneapolis chapter of the AIA, the Minneapolis Heritage Preservation Commission, and Preserve Minneapolis. We are gratefully indebted to this year's event sponsors, who in total have exceeded our goals for fundraising, despite not knowing how we were pulling this off. This year, we are glad to have the support again of our platinum level sponsor, Dominium. This is the third year Dominium has sponsored this event at the highest level. Please give them some super happy emoji clapping. Supporting tonight's festivities as gold level sponsors are the following dedicated firms and companies: Watson Forsberg, Snow Krylik Architects, Mattson McDonald and Young, Leo A. Daly, Shaw Lundquist Construction, New History, AWH Architects, and Tiger Ox Painting. Thanks to all of our gold level sponsors. Propelling this event to ever skyward greatness as silver level sponsors are the following amazing, legally organized business ventures: Mead and Hunt, Rare Schmidt, and T2 Architects. Please give up a warm round of emoticon thumbs up for our silver level sponsors. And in the category of individual supporters, we have several generous people who clearly have not understood what those COVID relief checks are for, and yet we appreciate them putting those Benjamins back into the award events economy. They are Nancy and Chuck Liddy, Kristen Scholmler, Anders Christensen, Jen Pillar-Quaid, Edna Brasitis, Doug Pletcher, and David Levac. Thanks to our individual sponsors. Now, before we start with the main program, we have invited the leaders of the three partnering organizations to fill us all in on what they've been doing and plan to do in the interest of historic preservation. First up is Madeline Sundberg, chair of the Minneapolis Heritage Preservation Commission.
Hello, my name is Madeline Sundberg, and I am the chair of the Minneapolis Heritage Preservation Commission. I want to thank you for attending this year's Minneapolis Preservation Awards. 2020 was an unusual but busy year for the Minneapolis Heritage Preservation Commission and staff. Starting in March, all permitting, reviews, and public meetings became virtual. The HPC reviewed 1 historic landmark designation and 2 historic districts. CPED received the final deliverables for a legacy grant from the Minnesota Historical Society. The Minneapolis in the Modern Era historic context from 1930 to 1975 is a great step towards understanding modern resources in the city of Minneapolis. CPED also received the National Trust Grant Award this year to conduct community engagement for an African American historic context study. The HPC commented on 5 National Register nominations, and reviews remained relatively high despite the pandemic. CPED and the HPC reviewed 6 historic variances, 25 certificates of appropriateness, 6 appeals of the HPC's decision, and 6 applications for demolition of a historic resource. Additionally, there were 131 administrative reviews and 184 wrecking permits. Looking ahead, the HPC and CPED are revising guidelines, applying for further grants to study historic resources, as well as creating a subcommittee on equity and preservation. Thank you.
Rebecca, as I've said, I hardly know anything about you, and I bet our audience doesn't either. I wonder if you could let me pry into your background a little bit so the audience can feel more comfortable with you managing the chat option.
All right, let's do this, Philip.
Okay, so this is going to be lightning round style. Don't think too hard about it, just blurt out the answer.
Okay.
Would you prefer to watch a movie or read a book?
Read a book.
Okay, I say duck, duck, and you say?
Gray duck.
That's right. Gin or whiskey?
Tea.
Lake Pepin or Lake Superior?
Ooh, Lake Superior.
Okay, football or baseball?
Baseball.
Beyonce or Michael Bublé?
Ooh, Queen all the way.
All right. Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel?
Wonder Woman.
Cat person or a dog person? You know, wait. I think we need to move on with the show. And it's time to introduce to the stage David Levac, this year's president of Preserve Minneapolis.
David Levac. I'm president of the board of directors of Preserve Minneapolis. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our virtual Minneapolis Preservation Awards celebration. Preserve Minneapolis is a nonprofit, mission-based organization dedicated to preserving the architectural and cultural legacy of our city. We have a number of events that we do throughout the year to bring people closer to preservation. We conduct advocacy on behalf of preservation projects, and we provide our expertise in preservation to others in the city who are interested in getting involved. Please visit our website, preserveminneapolis.org. Follow us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram to stay connected and learn more about our events and activities. The past year has been challenging for all of us, and that's why we're especially impressed with the quality of the nominations we received this year. We're especially impressed with our winners who speak to the skill and dedication of all the professionals in our community when it comes to preservation. The work is truly brilliant, and it's an honor to bring attention to all of these amazing projects that you all have been working on in the past couple of years. It's a real testament to our preservation community and the enthusiasm that we see here in Minneapolis. Congratulations to all of the winners, and thank you so much again for joining us for tonight's Minneapolis Preservation Awards.
Okay, Rebecca, just a few more questions.
Uh-oh.
I know you have degrees in art history and historical architecture, so I thought I would start throwing some hardball questions, if you don't mind.
Let's try it.
All right. Who exhibited his invention, the elevator safety braking device, at New York's Crystal Palace in 1854?
Elisha Otis.
That's correct. You seem
Okay.
to know that right off the top of your head there. St. Paul's senior architect from 1917 to 1949, Clarence Wigington, designed over 60 buildings still standing in the capital city, 4 of which are listed on the National Register. Name 2.
Highland Park Tower.
That's right.
And the Harriet Island Pavilion.
Very, very good. The other 2 are the Broomfield Row House and the Holman Field Administration Building. Final question. Who was the first American woman to have worked as a professional architect?
Elizabeth Close.
No, she is local and famous locally woman architect, but the first in America is actually Louise Blanchard Bethune.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't you want to know why I know that?
Please, enlighten me.
Okay. It's because we named our dog after Louise Blanchard Bethune. Her name is
Nice.
Louise. Sometimes Louie. She's really cute. Do you want to see a picture?
I do.
Okay. Okay. I've got one right here. Oh my God. This is just taken a few days ago when we had all that snow. Look at that.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That is a puppy.
You know, she's 4.
Of course.
You're a dog person?
I can be.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh,
We have a
yeah, okay.
show. Yeah.
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 I'll get
Thanks.
back to it. All right. And now, representing the Minneapolis chapter of the AIA is 2021 President Michael Rare.
Good evening. I'm Michael Rare, President of the Minneapolis chapter of the American Institute of Architects for 2021. As one of the principal organizers of this awards program, we'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for attending this year's virtual event. First, I'd like to say a few words about the AIA. As the largest organization of professional designers in the world at almost 100,000 members, our mission is to promote and educate the value of architects and architecture to the broader public, as well as advocate for exemplary standards of health, safety, and general excellence in how we create and maintain our shared built environment. We do this locally through programs such as this, along with others such as Homes by Architects Tour, the Merit Awards, and Doors Open Minneapolis. And there are plans in the works for a Minnesota Architecture Center to provide a more public face to these efforts and education and awareness. Nationally, our efforts have become focused around 2 areas of vital importance: climate responsibility and equity, diversity, and inclusion in the profession. These efforts have broadened the scope of how we think about our physical and our social well-being, with an acknowledgement that these efforts are really interdependent, and that to marshal the talent, ingenuity, and resolve it will require to create a sustainable future for all of us will require a renewed dedication to social justice and inclusion, for we truly rise or fall together. I would encourage all the architects in the room to get more involved in the AIA. It's your organization and a great way to give back to and through a profession that has probably been good to you somehow, and that we all love in our own ways. There are a wide range of initiatives that could use your energy, intelligence, and drive. Visit our website for more information or get in touch with me personally. I'd be happy to talk with you about it. Now on to the event, which marks an anniversary of sorts for me, as I would imagine for several of you, as I believe last year's awards presentation was the very last in-person event of any kind that I attended before we all went into our various states of isolation for the last 12 months. As difficult as this year has been for everyone, I'd say this evening is particularly poignant for those of us whose lives are dedicated to creating and preserving the built environment and the spaces that only become real places once they're animated by the activities they harbor and the stories created by our gathering there. This evening is a celebration of just those kinds of places, those kinds of stories, and the people dedicated to the work of remembering and preserving where we have been in the past, so that all of us might have access to the raw material of memory that it takes to build a future together. Which brings us full circle to the idea of being together. Fortunately, with vaccines becoming increasingly available and spring just around the corner, there appears to be a light at the end of this tunnel, and I fully expect to be celebrating and mingling with everyone in person, probably spilling my drink on several of you by this time next year. Let's make it a date. So thanks for being here. Congratulations to everyone taking home awards this evening, and enjoy the show.
And now, before the presentation of this year's awards,
Hosmer Library is Minneapolis' 4th and final.
I think we have a technical difficulty. Let me know if I can proceed. Good to go. And now, before the presentation of this year's awards, one final salute to the fine people who served on this year's Preservation Awards jury. If you are in the Zoom, please use one of the emoji reactions to let folks know you are here. These people are Kimberly Sandbolt, Murray Bjornberg, Gordon Olschlager, Val Quarles, Michael Rare, and Stephanie Howe. Thanks to all of you for your unrivaled judginess. And now, Rebecca, don't you think we should get on with the show?
I do.
Okay. Our first group of awards are in the category of historic restoration, rehabilitation, and adaptive reuse. This first accolade in the category goes to Hosmer Library. Built in 1916 as the fourth and last of the city's Carnegie libraries, the Hosmer Library sits at the intersection of 4th Avenue South and 36th Street East in south-central Minneapolis. For over the last 100 years, the brick and terracotta-clad Tudor Revival structure served as a neighborhood landmark and community resource. Despite an addition and limited interior renovations in the 1990s, the structure was in need of alterations to improve physical access, to accommodate evolving community needs, and to incorporate the latest information technology. The challenge put to the design team was to achieve the modernization while respecting and celebrating the building's history. One of the most visible transformations was the reopening and daylighting of the original lobby skylight. Selective removal of solid interior walls and the introduction of new glass doors and partitions improved daylight and sight lines throughout the main public spaces. Less visible are the improvements to non-code compliant restrooms, outdated HVAC systems, leaking roofs, and energy inefficient windows and lighting. Please join us in congratulating the following project team members: Hennepin County Libraries, Damon Farber, New History, InSpec, Professional Project Management, Cavernstone, Ronholm and Associates, and Leo A. Daly. Here to represent the project team receiving the award for Hosmer Library are Michael Bjornberg, FAIA, and Michelle Watanabe, AIA, both from the architecture firm Leo A. Daly.
We'd like to thank you for this award. Hosmer Library is Minneapolis' fourth and final Carnegie Library. It was one of 13 libraries initiated under the leadership of Gracia countrymen. Community libraries serve many purposes beyond book lending facilities. They transform lives.
Yes, this library truly does transform lives. It's cornerstone community resource in this South Minneapolis neighborhood, providing spaces for study, research, group meetings, and computer access for all ages. And to respond to these needs, the project design increased flexibility, added new furnishings, and updated interior spaces to improve efficiency of their services to the community while retaining the historic character of the 1916 structure.
The design team would like to acknowledge Hennepin County's commitment to preservation and adaptive reuse of its historic libraries. And we'd also like to acknowledge the efforts of Lisa Bartels, Kay Lucy, Peggy Woodling, Paul Jacobson, and Jim Scott. This is a commitment and effort worthy of recognition.
And with these collective efforts, we were able to effectively rehabilitate the historic elements of the building's exterior features while carefully integrating the new interiors to maintain and express those historic features. So with the library's rehabilitation, refresh, and updates, it's now able to serve its South Minneapolis community for another 100 years.
And lastly, we would like to acknowledge working with John Smoley and the city preservation staff as we reviewed mock-ups, discussed preservation approaches on this project. John's guidance was instrumental to this project's success, and he's just fun to work with. Thank you.
Hey, Rebecca. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking we need to jazz this program up a little bit.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Take it to the next level.
All
What do
right.
you think?
Let's do it.
Okay, I think we're going to do some trivia. Since you are the historical person,
Sure.
you know, like you went to school for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they say.
Yeah. Why don't you ask the questions?
All right. How
And
about
then we
this
have
one?
a slide. So this is the slide up. There we go.
All right. Yeah. Slides make it a little easier. All right. Question number 1. Listed on the National Register of Historic Places, this modest one-story building in the Seward neighborhood of Minneapolis was built in 1970 as a recording studio. For a decade, it held legendary status in the digital music world, where a long list of established and upcoming artists laid down their grooves, including Cat Stevens, Bob Dylan, Prince, Dave Brubeck, The Suburbs, Yanni, and Lips Inc., whose hit Funky Town reached #1 in the US, West Germany, Norway, and New Zealand. What was the name of this homespun Minneapolis recording studio? And for extra credit, what is the building called now?
So I hope we get at least one right answer out of all this. So if you think you know the answer, put it in the chat window. The first person with the right answer will get called out at our next award break. If you don't know where your chat window is, I got a prop for this. So if sometimes it doesn't show up, you have to like hover kind of at the bottom of the screen, and then the toolbar will show up, and then there should be something that says like chat room or chat. So then you hit that, and then there will be like a chat bar that kind of opens up on the side. And sometimes if it's on a PC, it might be like over here or up there. But just keep clicking. It'll make sense after you spend a little time with it. So anyway, we need to get on to our next award. And this one recognizes the rehabilitation of Minneapolis' urban landscape jewel, PV Plaza.
On behalf of the City of Minneapolis,
The premier urban park in
project team, including Cohen
The premier urban park in downtown Minneapolis, PV Plaza opened to the public in 1975. Designed by modernist landscape architect M. Paul Friedberg, the unabashedly brutalist public square is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. From the beginning, PV Plaza served as a vital community space for downtown residents, workers, and shoppers. Host to innumerable concerts, civic events, and festivals, the plaza's heavy use eventually began to take its toll. The city's Department of Public Works struggled to keep the space in working order. Maintaining landscapes was not its bailiwick. Custom light fixtures fell into disrepair and were removed. Failing retaining walls and sloped berms were replaced with residential concrete blocks. And the fountains were notoriously finicky. The rehabilitated plaza, following a decade of public input and design, and I might be glossing over some of the fine details, has restored the iconic features of Friedberg's original scheme while allowing for needed modifications. Planting and paving materials were either saved, restored, or replaced with sympathetic components. The fountains were rebuilt and the stainless steel canisters cleaned of their murky brown patina. Notably, the pool basin was raised to be almost level with the adjoining paved surfaces, and discrete new ramped walkways ensure that every area of the plaza can be enjoyed by all people regardless of physical ability. For returning a modernist landscape masterpiece to its place at the heart of downtown Minneapolis' civic life, please join us in congratulating the following project team members: City of Minneapolis, New History, Cohen and Partners, Peter Handy Brown, Global Specialty Contractors, Tillett Lighting Design Associates, Fluidity, and Bar Engineering. Represent the project team receiving the award for PV Plaza is Minneapolis City Council member Lisa Goodman.
On behalf of the City of Minneapolis and our incredible project team, including Cohen and Partners, Peter Brown, and the amazing people at New History, as well as all of the incredible public works and planning staff at the City of Minneapolis, we want to thank you, the Preservation Alliance, and the historic preservation community for honoring our wonderful PV Plaza reimagining project. When Paul Friedberg built this plaza in 1975, who would have thought it would have been used as well as it was? And it had some wear and tear over the years, but PV Plaza has always been our gathering place, and the city is committed to ensuring incredible streetscapes and landscapes in our city. We were all so proud to be part of this effort, and we stand with you as you move forward to honor amazing projects and as you work with the state to extend the historic preservation tax credit so that many more buildings can be preserved over time. We're proud to be a partner with the Preservation Alliance and the preservation community, and we stand with you as we move this work forward. Thank you so much for this incredible honor. On behalf of our entire team, we are profoundly thankful.
Congratulations again to the whole PV Plaza team. Rebecca, should we talk trivia?
Let's do.
Now, before we get to the correct answer, did we have any wrong answers worth calling out?
All right, to be fair, not a lot of wrong answers, although Studio 70 is a very close guess. Not
Okay.
quite there, not
Yeah.
quite there.
Yeah.
But no, the correct answer, of course, is Sound 80. And, let's see, I think we have Ian Stade gets credit for being first.
All right.
All right.
Does anybody know what it's called now?
We do have one of those as well, so to Michael Rare for Orfield Labs.
All right. A lot of architects know that space because they have an anechoic chamber that used to be the quietest place on earth. Another piece of trivia. Anyway, we need to move on. And where are we? Our next winner this year falls into the category of new construction within a historic district. This category recognizes outstanding new developments that not only adhere to the spirit of place embodied within a historic district's guidelines, but also reflect their own time and means of making. This year's winning project is Second and Second. Located within the 19th century boundaries of the Minneapolis Historic District, Second and Second is a mixed-use, multifamily development stretching a full city block face. Replacing a patchwork assembly of surface parking lots, a feature that once dominated the North Loop neighborhood, the new development projects a renewed sense of scale and livability to once barren streetscapes. Adhering to district guidelines calling for new structures to be clad in one primary material, the project stands unified with its brick-faced neighbors. While balconies are a market requirement for new residential construction in the urban core, the designers chose to recess each unit's outdoor space, integrating them with the overall fenestration pattern of the structure. The design also follows the classically codified organization of the facades into a base, a middle, and a top, although with a frankly minimalist manipulation of charcoal gray on black materials and subtle application of traditional brick coursing and patterning. Large expanses of glass at street level evoke the large glazed cast iron storefronts that dominate the historical structures of the district. Extending the pedestrian realm into the site, an internal courtyard is connected to the street via a wide, retail-lined passage, all completely open to the public. For replacing a windswept tundra of asphalt with an urban infill project that respects, rather than imitates its neighbors, please join us in recognizing the following project partners: Solaris Redevelopment Company, Snow Krylik Architects, 10x10 Studio, Ellen Design Lab, MBJ, Mayer Mechanical, Collins Electric, Weiss Builders, TM Lighting, Marks Okubo, New History, Serigraphics, and Summit Consulting. Here to speak for the project are Matt Krylik, FAIA, with Snow Krylik Architects, and Sharon Cohn with Solaris Development.
I know I speak for the entire project team when I say it's an absolute honor to receive a Minneapolis Preservation Award for this project. We've had an incredible team. I think one of our main goals on this project was to integrate a modern residential project into a historic neighborhood in a respectful way and really create a sense of place around this project. We had an incredible team on the design side, partnering with 10x10 landscape architects, Weiss Construction, who did an incredible job executing the project. And last but not least, our client, Solaris Group, who was committed to this project and to the quality of this project from day one, and to the neighborhood and to the city of Minneapolis. So with that, Sharon, I'll pass it to you.
Oh, I thought there was a second video. Nope, we're good. Okay. I agree with the jury. That was a very fine project. And can COVID please stop so that I can go to West Elm and get a fresh batch of throw pillows? Am I right, Rebecca?
You have your priorities.
Do you like throw pillows? Mine are getting kind of old. Anyway, I think it's time for another trivia question, don't you?
Let's do it. All right. Here's another question. This bas-relief decorative sculpture features a canine perched on an iron-riveted chest, framed by stylized oak trees, and includes the single-word inscription, Fides. Identify the name of the downtown Minneapolis National Register landmark that bears this sculpture. For extra credit, provide a translation of the word Fides and how it relates to the original function of the building.
Great, thank you. Now moving on, our next winner this year falls into the category of Preservation Gem. This category acknowledges the reality that many of our unsung preservation success stories are often overlooked by the media and the design and construction professions. A small side porch serving an 1880s vintage duplex held together by constant repairs and the force of habit was long overdue for a replacement. The building owner and architect sought a better solution than the inherited lean-to double entry, something that could provide a rooftop deck for the upper unit, a covered ice-free entry, a screen porch for the lower unit, and a small storage closet for garden tools. Located within the Milwaukee Avenue Historic District in the Seward neighborhood, the addition had to comply with established district guidelines. By retaining the footprint of the original side entry, the new side porch maintained the established relationship between the porch and the addition, as well as the porch and the neighboring structures. Using simplified profiles of the balusters and trim boards used on the front porch, the new addition both distinguishes itself from the original construction and is consistent with a level of detail and finish used on side and rear elevations of residences within the district. Painted lap siding, beadboard ceilings, and tongue-and-groove flooring reflect the kinds of materials available to the area's period of significance, while the opportunity to relocate the Weber grill from the driveway to the deck is surely appreciated by the owners and their guests. For crafting a truly fitting and ingenious preservation gem that fits seamlessly into its historic context, please join us in congratulating the homeowners and their team. Lynn Brofman and Charles Levin, Charles Levin Architects, and Align Structural Incorporated. Here to speak for the project is homeowner and architect, and I have to apologize for mispronouncing his name earlier. Amber Allardyce here pointed out it's Charles Levine. Here's Chuck.
Thanks so much for this award. I'm very lucky that many years ago I was able to rent a duplex on Milwaukee Avenue and subsequently was able to buy the building from my landlord. Since the day I moved in, I disliked the side porch. Once I became the owner, I did a drawing of a 2-story porch and deck replacement, but the drawing sat for over 25 years. I kept promising my wife Lynn that I'd build the new porch, but life kept getting in the way. She explained the porch's horrible condition to visitors with the proverb, "The cobbler's children have no shoes." The porch was not an original. It was built in the 1970s as part of a total reconstruction of the building. The whole thing was done on the cheap. It was so poorly detailed that by the 1980s it was rotting away. Our handyman friend Mike would stop by periodically to reinforce the substructure and reinforce the railing to keep it from falling down, but it remained a dangerous embarrassment. So one day, Mike announces that it's the last time he's repairing it. "Don't ask me again," he said. So here we are today. Thanks a lot, Mike. We love our new porch. We should have built it 25 years ago. Driveway barbecuing has ended since we added a gas-fired Weber on the upper deck. The downstairs has the screen porch. We don't have a garage, but now we have a tool shed, and the entrance from our driveway is wide and deep and inviting. Just a word about process. As small as the project is, the approval was complicated. We thank our surrounding neighbors, the Milwaukee Avenue Homeowners Association, Doug Wise and the Seward Neighborhood Group for their letters of support, Bob Roscoe and Sheldon Maines for speaking out on our behalf at the public meetings, and the Minneapolis Zoning and Planning Commission under the leadership of Councilmember Goodman, who heard our appeal after our design was denied for a setback issue by the Minneapolis Heritage Preservation Commission. Special thanks to James Steel Construction and ace carpenter Scott Sonic who never hesitated to drop to his belly and crawl under the porch to do whatever needed to be done. We came to call him the Lizard. The biggest thanks of all goes to the visionary preservationists who saved Milwaukee Avenue from the bulldozers. And now we get a pat on the back from all of you. We couldn't be happier. Lynn and I often muse that this must be what it feels like to live in heaven. Thanks very much.
Philip,
What?
are you doing?
Oh, are we back on?
We're back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I was just so inspired by that last project. I thought, well, if Chuck can get an award, get preservation famous for fixing up a dumpy old porch, maybe I could fix up this Plain Jane lectern and submit it next year. Don't you think?
I don't know if that's how this works. No.
Well, I'm going to try it anyway. Do you mind helping out? I need a before picture, and I see you have your phone there.
Right.
And I'm just
Okay.
gonna
I see how
Take
this
this out
is.
of the way for the time being,
All right.
and zoom in so you get a lot of the detail.
Right. Yeah, that
Like how
nice
cruddy
corner
it is right
there.
now.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. I think we had something else going on. Didn't we have another trivia question, number 2?
Trivia. Let's
So,
get back at
any
it.
answers? Wrong answers. Let's start with that.
Wrong answers. Let's take some looks here. People really like that porch, by the way. Well done. All right. Well, we'll decide how we feel a wrong answer is. I will say, people really understood that this was the Farmers and Mechanic Bank. So, well done, everyone. Well done. But here's the tricky part. How are we translating our Latin tonight?
Oh boy.
Oh boy is correct.
Well, it was me and
most-
Google, so.
It's Philip and Google, everybody. You can blame him. So most people would like the translation of faith. So it's a faithful thing, like a dog. Makes sense. Now, Philip's notes say that this is loyalty and trustworthiness. Related, not identical. Do we give it to them?
They're
That's the
cognates,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Cognates. It's fine.
Sure.
Either way, all things you want from your bank, right? You want to trust your bank. So.
Right, yeah, and having a big mean old dog sitting on top of your money.
Yeah,
is-
that's right.
That
I
inspires a
will
lot of
say-
confidence anyway.
Somebody, and you're with a group of historians when people have bonus facts on top of your answer. So somebody pointed out that it was the bank owner's and president's wife's Great Dane who was the model
No
for
kidding.
the sculpture. So
Amazing.
thank you, Aaron,
We
for
just
that
keep
fact.
learning, don't we?
That's right.
That's great. Okay, so who was the right answer again?
Ooh, first one at the top goes to Aaron Hannafin-Berg.
Oh, Erin. Yeah, congratulations, Erin. She's a smart cookie. And now, moving on, our next winner this year is in the category of Grassroots, Advocacy, and Education. This category was created to applaud preservation activities and programs that promote understanding, curiosity, and respect for the city's embedded social history and material culture. Our first award in this category tonight goes to Christina, Langsdorff, and Ezra Gray. In the universe of historical preservation, there are two kinds of people: those who are born as fully formed preservation enthusiasts, and those who are converted later. Ezra Gray is the first type, with preservation DNA running in his veins. Christina came along for the ride until she took over the steering wheel. Their lives as preservation advocates started innocently enough. Ezra committed to restoring a Queen Anne in the North Point of Minneapolis's Wedge neighborhood, and eventually convinced Christina of the idea. They renovated the house inside and out. While doing so, Ezra researched its history as well as the surrounding 8-block area known as the Sunny. This led to the realization that theirs was one of 6 Queen Anne homes built on the street by master builder P.C. Richardson in 1892. Prompted by a neighborhood historian, they opened their house to public tours. When redevelopment threatened demolition of similar structures in the Wedge, this time by Richardson's more famous and prolific contemporary, T.P. Healy, Ezra and Christina helped form the Healy Project. When their efforts to oppose the demolitions failed, the two shifted gears and redirected the focus of the Healy Project to advocacy and education. Ezra's research into the Sunnyside addition in the Wedge extended to the Healy block at 2nd Avenue South. He regularly leads walking tours of both districts. In the 10 years since taking over custody of their Queen Anne painted lady on Bryant Avenue, Christina and Ezra have evolved from old house cheerleaders to highly respected preservation champions. In the 10 years since taking over custody of their Queen Anne painted lady on Bryant Avenue, Christina and Ezra have evolved from old house Christina Langsdorff and Ezra Gray. And here to accept their award are none other than Christina Langsdorff and Ezra Gray.
Hello. Ezra and I would like to thank Preserve Minneapolis, the HPC, and AIA for awarding us this honor. Our historic preservation journey began almost exactly 10 years ago when we achieved the dream of buying an old house to fix up. We spent the first few years after our purchase focusing on bringing our 1892 Queen Anne back from the brink and giving it new life. But slowly, our preservation efforts expanded as we met old house folks, neighbors, and others. Our view moved from being just a good steward to the house that we lived in to resurrecting long-forgotten history about our neighborhood, the Sunnyside edition of Minneapolis, putting a spotlight on the 6 sisters, of which our Queen Anne is but one, and using our skills to assist others in their advocacy and preservation efforts. Ezra now works full-time in researching and restoring historical homes, and we love a good walking tour. We've made some great friends along the way. People have provided us with tips and tricks and some emotional support sometimes because historic preservation can be tough. We are proud of the community building and education we have been able to contribute to as much as we are of our restoration projects. Thank you for this award.
Rebecca.
The lectern is nice, Philip. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. You don't have to take a picture. I'm going to have it professionally done. if you
Oh,
don't
right.
mind.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. You know what time it is?
What time is it, Philip?
I think it's time that we find out what people are chatting about.
Oh, no.
Let's check in with the chatters.
Let's check in.
There are two
well,
adages that apply to
people
this next award.
certainly like your vest. Let's start there. So well done on the
Oh.
vest. Maybe it should have a...
Maybe I should put it back on.
Yeah, that's right. Lots of love on the porch. Lots of love on the porch. And a nice joke that says, it took so long to get done because the cobbler's kids have no shoes, which is a true statement of life at its finest, right? No, overall, though, people are really loving it. And a lot of congratulations to all of the winners so far. So
Good.
I think a nice round of applause.
Okay. No haters.
No haters yet.
Awesome. So tonight's second winner in the category of Grassroots Advocacy and Education goes to the organizers of Save the Boards to Memorialize the Movement. There are two adages that apply to this next award-winning preservation project. The first is that the news is just the first rough draft of history. The second, you can't preserve something after it's gone. Following the murder of George Floyd in May of 2020, the social and physical environment of Minneapolis changed in an instant. The following protests and civil conflict expanded across the Twin Cities, the country, and the world. Some of the most highly visible and emotionally charged artifacts from this time were the murals and painted plywood boards stretched across miles of storefronts, windows, entrances, and bare masonry walls. Later that summer, as businesses started to reopen and the plywood boards came down and were discarded, Lisa Kelly and Kenda Zellner-Smith recognized that part of the history we just lived through could be lost. They saw that these boards were a record of the protest and memorial art reflecting an entire movement, and that they should not be so lightly discarded. The duo took action by forming Save the Boards to Memorialize the Movement, a project dedicated to collecting, archiving, documenting, and curating these otherwise ephemeral, expressively powerful 4x8 sheets of history. With a collection of over 700 boards now stored in the Northrop King Building, the Save the Boards project has recruited the skills and resources of several local organizations, including the College of St. Thomas, the Midwest Art Conservation Center, Preserve Minneapolis, and Bradshaw Kimmich. These partnerships, fueled by Lisa and Kenda's foresight and tenacity, will ensure that the artistry and emotions that for a moment became the wallpaper of our city can continue to be experienced and shared with people across the map and extending into the future. for their visionary and grassroots efforts to preserve the good and the bad of now, so we can continue to appreciate the whole of it later. Please join us in thanking Lisa Kelly and Kenda Zellner-Smith. And here to accept the award for the Save the Boards to Memorialize the Movement are Kenda Zellner-Smith and Lisa Kelly.
Hello, everyone. I feel extremely honored to be receiving such an amazing award, the Minneapolis Preservation Award. Thank you. I am grateful for the recognition I am receiving for the work I have put into saving the boards. I could not have made it this far without the help of many supporters. Tina Burnside from the African American Heritage Museum, Rebecca from Preserve Minnesota, and Lisa Kelly from Memorialize the Movement Minneapolis are just a few of the many who have contributed to preserving this work. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my partner, Lisa Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenda, and hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I want to thank the Minneapolis Preservation Awards for inviting us here and for giving us this wonderful award. I want to thank the Minnesota African American Heritage Museum and Gallery, Tina and Coventry, for all of their support and for partnering with us for this exhibition, and Rebecca Kaufman with Preserve Minneapolis for the nomination. When Kenda and I began this work back in June of 2020, we never, ever in a million years anticipated that we would be here today. And so we're really grateful for everyone who supported us on this project and everyone who is here today who is still supporting us. And we're really excited to see where the project goes in the future. And we hope to see you at the exhibition in May. Thank you so much.
So Rebecca, I couldn't help notice that you nominated this project for an award, which thanks for doing that. And also, how did you learn about Kenda and Lisa's work?
Sure. So I think, like a lot of us, end of May, early part of June, I spent a lot of time in streets, and as part of that was documenting boards and art as it came up, and I saw Kenda make an Instagram account and say, I want to save these, and I messaged her right away, and I was like, I want to help you do that. So since then, since June, we've been doing this as best I can and supporting their efforts and however they can. And Kenda and Lisa realized they both had similar missions and joined forces. But I think it's really important to say that at a board meeting, I brought it forward to our board and said, there are some really clear inequities in our historic preservation system. Here are statistics, here are facts. And at that meeting, I was told, that's important information to know, but let's not talk about it until we know how we're going to handle that, how we're going to do something about it. And I think it's fair to say there are people doing things about it. We just need to look and recognize them. And so for that reason, I feel like they were very deserving of this nomination, and it's so important to recognize the people doing the work around us. So I'm thrilled that they were received. And I know the interrelation between historic preservation and art cannot be detached either. So I think just across the board, I'm excited to see the work that they'll continue to do, and the advocacy and preservation work, they have a long road ahead of them. So if you can support them, please do.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for nominating them and for being part of that activity. Before we move on to our last category, an award winner of the evening, we have a little bit of business. We need to thank those awards program committee members who spent the last 9 months retooling, reinventing, organizing, and often just doing really boring volunteer stuff like creating spreadsheets, writing meeting minutes, and reviewing contracts. Mostly, we need to thank and recognize our committee chair for the last 2 years, Katie Hans-Goering, who has kept the board afloat through stormy seas with a steady hand on the tiller and a firm eye on the horizon. Maybe now that she's stepping down from leading the committee, she'll have time to take up sailing, where all of those metaphors will make sense. Without further ado, please join us in thanking the 2021 Awards Program Committee members. Katie Hans-Goering, Susanna Strand, Kimberly Sandbolt, Dylan Larson, Robert Skalecki, Peter Sussman, John Crippen, and yours truly. The Steve Murray Award recognizes an individual who has made significant and enduring contributions to preservation within the city of Minneapolis, either through sustained efforts over the course of a career or through transformational work benefiting the practice of preservation and its impact on society. This year's recipient, Dick Cronin, will be introduced by his nominator, Anders Christensen.
It is my honor to introduce Dick Cronin as the recipient of this year's Steve Murray Award. Dick's career has been in the communication business. When I teasingly called him an entrepreneurial academic, Dick told me the accepted term was an independent scholar. The question always was, what is my audience and what can I teach them? Architecture has fascinated Dick since his youth. His mentor, David Gebhard, motivated Dick to the practice of lifelong self-education. He led walking tours, he has written scholarly articles, and has delivered lectures. Through Minneapolis Historical, he has produced a body of readily accessible architectural information found online at no cost. That achievement is reflective of Dick's collaborative and generous nature. For Dick, the societal motivation for architectural preservation comes from knowledge, understanding, and appreciation. And now, I would like to present Dick Cronin.
Thanks very much, Anders, for introducing me and for nominating me for this award. Also, my thanks go to everyone on the Preserve Minneapolis Board of Directors. I love working with all of you. Also, I want to take this opportunity to tell you about my father, Stanley Cronin, and what I've learned from his life. Dad showed artistic talent early in childhood and eventually attended MCAD. Then he went to Hollywood, where he worked for Walter Lantz and also painted scenery for 20th Century Fox. But then my grandmother, who was embarrassed to have a bohemian son, ordered him back to Minneapolis, where he worked in his father's, my grandfather's, dry cleaning business. When my grandfather died of a heart attack, my dad took over the business. I think he hated doing that work and wished that he could be a full-time artist. But by then, he had a family and a mortgage. When the dry cleaning business wasn't generating enough income, he became a life insurance salesman. He did that for 30 years. As soon as he retired, he rented studio space and returned to painting. He finally reached his dream of being a full-time artist. But by then, he had lost a lot of the energy that made his early paintings so good. I watched all this happen, and I decided not to make the same mistake of crushing my dreams to conform to societal norms. I wanted to be a professional writer and a professional bass player. I've played rock, jazz, funk, folk, country, and gospel music for 55 years. And when I was 40, I hung out my shingle, as they say, and became self-employed as a freelance writer. My plan is to continue writing and playing music as long as I'm physically able. There's no need to retire if you love your work. I hope this little story inspires some young people who are watching. My advice is that you should figure out how to turn your dreams into income.
So that's our show. Now please stick around and join tonight's winners and your fellow audience members in one or more of our chat rooms. And if you don't know where you want to go, we will shortly be putting up a slide that indicates the projects and sponsors that will be waiting for you in each of the rooms. If you haven't already, please consider turning on your video so others can see your gorgeous maskless face And to manage the echoes and background noise, please stay muted.